as I have said, many a time and oft, when I was growing up through the new wave of British heavy metal, NWOBHM era, there were several issues around listening to all the bands that were out there. You either had to have disposable income, which means you could go to Select a Disc in Nottingham, where I was born, just outside Nottingham. I like to call it Nottingham in Beeston at all. Anyway, go to Select a Disc. There were no record shops like that in Beeston when I grew up, and buy as many albums as you wanted to. You could have a friend who said, come up to my bedroom and listen to these albums. And then I'll bring the albums I've got and we'll pool our resources and listen to all the albums. Or you heard bits and bobs on Thomas the Vance's Friday Rod Show and into the music, which carried on after. It was an extra show, wasn't it? More proggy based, that. So you might listen to stuff there, but you wouldn't get a whole album there. Or somebody might say to you, bring us a tape and I'll record it. In fact, bring us a D90 and I'll record 2 albums for you. They're probably not going to be more than 45 minutes at a time, are they? If they were, you need a D120. That sometimes is difficult to afford. But anyway, certain albums and certain bands I knew of, but they passed me by. And I have to add that precursor, because looking at the new wave of British heavy metal Facebook groups, it stirred memories in me. It's also made me think, hey, didn't know about them. And it's made me also go, aha, yes, I know entirely about them. I need to go and listen again. But this is a band that I knew of, but never actually listened to. They're called Gaskin. Remember Gaskin? Paul Gaskin? And also people like Andy Solomon, Mick Cross, Dave Norman. They were from Scunthorpe, and they released a couple of albums in that period, that new wave of British heavy metal period. This one that I'm about to talk about, End of the World, is 1981. And they came back, as is inevitable with an awful lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands, and I'm delighted that they do. Well, not all of them, but bands like Blitzkrieg and, that kind of, produce superb albums, and are producing superb albums and all of that. And Tank came back, with a different configuration, and people can argue about whether it's Tank or not without Algie Ward, but they produce superb music as well. Lots of new wave of British heavy metal bands did, and I love the sound. Raven are still going, aren't they? For instance, I could go on all day. I sometimes like to on Steve Smith's Rambling Radios. Anyway, this album, which came out in 81, End of the World, is just great. Sometimes I can think, okay, I really enjoyed the melding of punk and metal at that time, and I understand that it's not got the best production values, and there might be it might feel a bit thin, but when I'm listening back to albums, sometimes I'm thinking, I really liked this at the time, but you know what, it just doesn't have the songs. Now I'm a bit more mature, and I've got hair on me bits. I think, well, yes, I remember really enjoying it, but it doesn't have the songs. That's why I'm holding off listening to Shiva, because they were a band that I saw in Kerrang and thought, oh my God, I have to listen to that. They really captured my imagination for some reason. And I did listen to the album, bloody loved it, and I can now reacquaint myself with it again, and I've held off because I'm not really disappointed. But anyway, I have been disappointed when listening to a few of these new wave of British heavy metal NWOBHM albums, but this one is fabulous. When it's not simple and effective as it is with Sweet Dream Maker. Great name for your first track, that. They're like Victim, they can be like Victim of the City, which follows it, which has got a bit of 80s pop and indie in it, a martial drumming feel, power chorded chorus, and then a huge solo, breaks down to some brittle guitars and a bit of icy glacial stuff. Then big power chords back to rocking it up. They can also do things like Despiser, which is a great name, Despiser. The Despiser! It's either a superhero, or you're not that super, or a wrestler. Anyway, it's got early Thin Lizzy guitars in it. It's got a gallop and a lovely flowing solo. It's a very simple offer, this, but with a tougher verse and a calmer chorus. If you do it well, probably all you need. I love the way that, as the album goes, they grow in sass. Those swelling harmonies in the middle of End of the World, with that we know what we're doing feel. On My Way is the same. There's a cowbell apparent there, folks. Groovy, sassy, beautifully well done. I love Lovely Man. Lovely Man. It's got simple trash and flash. And again, they're just saying, look, this is what we can do. We've done it a bit now. We feel more confident. We can show you. It's a big offer. It opens up and says, right, we're able to really do something different here. Not that it's a prog, some kind of prog suite or Zydeco jug band music, which is what I always go for, isn't it? But it's different to other direct, thin, verse, chorus, solo, get out of there, new wave of British heavy metal tracks, which I like as well. And then we've got a bit of semi-prog in Handful of Reasons. Really like this album. Never really heard it at the time. There are albums that I just have never heard in the new wave of British heavy metal era. And I grew up in it. But I think I've explained adequately why that can be a problem. I'm reacquainting myself with the music now, and I bloody love it. Particularly this album. Why weren't they bigger? It can be many reasons. I'm so pleased that I've heard this, and they've got fairly new music for me to listen to. Oh, that sounds good. Ta-ta.